Hey, what is up, everybody? This is the Great Puckatini, and I'm making this video. I had a couple guys on Twitter say that they want to know if anybody ever run anything from like a tee set all the way to a spread or something like that, and they just want to know if somebody had an offense where you could run all kinds of different formations and everything that were totally opposite, something like that. And so I have done that. You know, I coached for 15 years. Right now, I'm not coaching football. I've been out for a few years. It's getting on now, a few more years. But anyway, and I've done that. I kind of when I first started, we were running like what we would just call the T, but when people would scouts and everything, they'd call it the diamond T. This is back in the early 2000s. That was my first year. And when I got to the school that I was at, they had a kid, their best athlete. They'd been playing him at receiver, and they were trying to throw to him. They couldn't get the ball to him because we played teams that are a lot more athletic than us. And they would just put their best guy on him, and their best guy was better than him. So then they said, well, instead of throwing it to him, maybe we ought to put him at quarterback. That's when I came in that summer. They were trying to figure out how to get him the ball and have him, having the ball more than just throwing it to him every 3 or 4 times a game, have it in his hand every time. But anyway, their set they was running was just this dead T, or some people called it a diamond T. And the base plays we ran out of this, I'm just going to tell you why we morphed out of it, is we would run just the straight dive. We'd run a straight dive here. Then we'd run like a belly G here. I could draw these up better, and I ran a lot of these when we broke it, but I'll show you that. And then this guy here was just your option guy. He was just your option man, okay? And then we ran them both ways. Now, the problem with that is that to have a good dive back, he's got to be somebody that's running up in there hard. He has to have no fear. He has to hit that B gap, and his nose is on the right guard's hip, and he's got to hit it hard. But anyway, these guys, they're not like in the I formation. We would call these two guys the halfbacks. Their heels were at 4 yards, and then the fullback, we called him the fullback, which is kind of be like a tailback in I formation. His heels were at 4.5, and all three of them were down 3-point stances. Now, I would eventually stand him up, and we'll break it a little bit before I get to the spread, and I'll show you how we kind of morphed into it, because this was just our formation right here. And we would eventually, because I like throwing the ball a lot when I was straight out of college, and I would kind of mesh some ideas with theirs, and it worked really good. So let me see if I can erase some of these red arrows here. But that was the base plays we'd run. The dive, the belly G would pull the play side guard, which was a really good play. That was a play we ran a lot of the time. And then this guy was not a good dive back. Usually we'd have one running back that was real good running the dive. The rest of them were a little scared of it and didn't like running it hard as you had to. So you would have him always be the option guy. Same thing up here on your line. Sometimes you wouldn't have 2 good tight ends. Sometimes you just have one, or you'd have to convert an offensive lineman, because what they would do, they put the biggest, baddest guy right at that 7-tech, try to take away that belly G. So this tight end has got to be a good blocker. And this one sometimes it's hard to find. If you're a small school like we were, it's hard to find 7 guys that can block. And so what we would do, we would flip them. We always had a dive back. We had the tight end to the play side where we're going to run behind. This guy was probably not anybody you wanted to run behind. Now, we could run some sweeps and stuff where he might get the linebacker, or he's going down, 3rd level safety. But you don't want this guy blocking a 7-tech. Now, there were some years where we had guys we could do that, but a lot of times we didn't. So anyway, this was our base formation, what we did, but what we started seeing is that we have 11 guys right here just pounding us, He's inching along. We had some passes, some waggle passes. We'd run a flag, run a drag, we'd roll out. But they were just bring so many people and so big and so fast, it was tough to do. It just really was hard. And so we started saying we need to get some of these guys out of there to give our best players some space. Maybe I just redraw this here real quick. Just bear with me. Now, I got my red. Let me go back to my blue. So here we go. So we got a quarterback, and here's our fullback. He's about 4.5. Our halfbacks are at 4, and they're on their nose is on the outside hip of that guard. Okay, so we're tight in there. Okay. Now here's the way we first started doing it. Because we said this guy here, this backside, we'll just call that, we're like a strong right. That's our dive back, and this here's our running back that really does not want to run the dive. And when I first started coaching too, we'd break into individual groups. We had linemen and running backs. You were either the lineman or back. We had no receivers. When I came in, I started working with receivers, because we had several guys that were more of a receiver type and not necessarily the running back type. So this guy here, a lot of times, he was somebody that did not want to run between the tackles. So he was our option guy. We started saying, why don't we just split him out to get one or two guys out of there? So we take him and we started splitting him out here wide. He's off the ball, right? And then we started running that. You know, we called that, I think that would be pro right, if I remember correctly. It's been a long time ago. And we can still run the dive, we can run the belly, and then the quarterback can just keep it. And then sometimes we said, hey, this guy here, sometimes he's our best athlete. We want him to get the ball too. And we'd like to get him out in space. And so we would split him out. Because remember, this is, I'll show you in a minute how we call that. So we'd have two guys off the ball right here. And we would run the bubbles, and we could run all kinds of stuff with this. And we would call this trips right, okay? Now, and this was better for us where we could kind of spread them out. We could roll, we could drop back, fake a sweep that way, and we could throw these guys. So we kind of morphed into that. And then sometimes we would get in a shotgun in this set here, okay? And that was the ways that we had done things. Now, so I'm going to pull them back to where we were, and I'm going to show you how we tagged it and everything and how we moved it around, okay? Now, and I'm going to use my red marker. So here's what we would do. Here, the type of player to every position. Like I was telling you, we call them halfbacks, okay? So this one here, a lot of times is what we would call him a B in the spread formation, okay? He's the B back, and our B back, we would eventually put him right here. He's that fullback type. He's the one that's probably not as good of a receiver as this guy, not as dynamic. He may be able to catch the ball, but he's not as fast. You know, he can be good. He can be a good runner. But that's where we would put our B back is right there. Dive back was usually our B back. Now, right here is what we would call a fullback, and we would eventually back him up. I would eventually put him at like 5 yards. I'd eventually stand him up and run the belly G, and we'd run a fullback dive and all kinds of stuff. We'd run sweeps and all kinds of stuff. But anyway, he's what we call, he's our A back, okay? And your A is this receiver right here. He's one of your best players. He's like your tailback in your I formation. But when you play other teams that were a lot more athletic than you, he's not going to be able to outrun a lot of people. You know, he's good for us for what we had, but these other teams had a lot better than him. So that fullback right there, and he's your main ball carrier too. I hate to say that, but he's running that belly G either way, and that was your best play in the T. I could draw that up if you're interested in it. But that A back was right here. If you watch some more videos, I'll talk about this as, you know, and he'll come in the backfield some too. So we move him back and forth. We can motion him across, run some speed sweeps and stuff too. Same thing with this guy here. Now, this guy here, it kind of depended who it was. It was usually our wide receiver one. This is a guy that, and I'll tag you, WR1. He's a guy that's a really good playmaker too, kind of more of a receiver type. He don't want to run up in here, but you want to get the ball in his hands. And so we would flip him right here most years. That's why I did that. And it fit usually, okay? So our wide receiver, that was usually our wide receiver one. Another guy we want to get the ball to. He's more of a receiver body type. You know, he might break if he runs up in here. And we would split him out, wide receiver one. Now when you go up here, I'm saying this is the dive back. So this right here would be more of a blocking, a tight end body. And this guy's our X. And this is where we would want to run behind him. Now we could flip it. And we're mostly wanting to run behind him, not this guy over here. Okay? So X, we always put a tight end guy out here. He was our X. And we would run comebacks with him. And some years we were really good at that. We'd roll to our left, we'd do that backwards check mark. I have explained in some other videos, but that would be our X. And then one on the left here is our tight end right here, the backside tight end that you don't really want to run behind. And he was really what we call our wide receiver two. Actually, we gave him, I'll tell you what, let me redo this here. wide receiver, I tell you what, I'll leave that wide receiver one. But what we called him, this was a Y. So where's wide receiver one? He's our Y. So remember, we go X, Y, and then we go A, B, and this is going to be C. So this guy up here is kind of a wide receiver 2, but we called him our C. Okay? And that's how we would move him. Here's our quarterback, of course, you know. And this way we could really, guys, we could not have to substitute anybody in. Now, if I had another tight end or another lineman, I could put him in there if I know we're going to run the ball a lot. If we're down in the goal line, we just won't pound it. But a lot of times on the goal line, we didn't get with this, spreading everybody out. What we learned is that when we had everybody crammed up in there, it was just too many. We couldn't block them all. You know, these guys could, but these guys over here probably could not, and we'd get leakage in here. So it was better to spread them all out, we found. You know, now I still ran a lot of wing T, and I could draw that up, and I would break it. I would have one tight end. I'd have a receiver, 2 backs, 1 tight end, and I can show you that too. But just today I wanted to show you how we'd go from that diamond T to 3 backs, 2 tight ends, and without substituting anybody, we could be in the spread. In 5 wide, a lot of times, I think I told you what we would do is we would move this guy here. And his job was he would line up wherever this end right here is. So he may line up right here, and his whole job is he's just coming in here and cracking. Now back then you could come in and take his head off. Nowadays you can't do that. But we would just want to wall him off right there, double team that end. And then we would roll a lot of times. I've told you, we rolled the pocket a lot. Because we just couldn't block these big old monsters that were coming at us. We couldn't man up on them. We had to roll a bunch. So we could go 5 wide. I could put him over here and we could roll that way. And we would go empty, you know, which is a 5 wide, empty, whatever. We could bring this guy and go 2 back. But we could do anything. We could line up in more of a traditional, like an I formation look, fullback, tailback, and we would not have to, substitute anybody, okay? And I can show you the plays. You look at some other videos, I have some plays drawn up. So that was just kind of what I wanted to show you today. Some of y'all was asking, you'd like to see that. And if you have any other questions, man, feel free to respond back to me. I love to talk football and draw up on the board. I really enjoy doing that. So if you have any questions, holler at me, and I can do some more videos like this and share it with you. But I think that's all I got today. I think I covered what I wanted to cover. But anyway, that's all I got. Thanks for being here on the whiteboard with the Great Puckatini. We'll check you later. Have a great evening.